news and an update to the breaking news around the trade between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins, a blockbuster as reported by our very own Adam Schefter. Terms of the deal look like this. The Steelers get Pro Bowl, All-Pro corner Jalen Ramsey, tight end Jonnu Smith. As a reminder, he had some of his best years of his career under their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who he was with 2 times prior, if I'm not mistaken, the Titans and the Falcons, as well as a 2027 7th-round pick. The Dolphins get Minkah Fitzpatrick back from the Steelers. Mike Tannenbaum drafted him in Miami, and a 2027 5th-round pick. Mike T is here, Dan Graziano is here, Dave Dennis Jr., Evan Cohen with you here on First Take. So, Mike, who won this deal and why?
Well, a lot to unpack here. Look, I like this for Pittsburgh for a few reasons. First of all, Arthur Smith, you're trying to make Aaron Rodgers successful. As you mentioned, been with Jonnu Smith a couple times. Very productive seasons when they were in Tennessee. So I like that. Obviously got DK Metcalf. But this is going to help Aaron Rodgers, who, again, will be 42 in December. On the other side of the ball, Jalen Ramsey, hopefully you could squeeze a year or 2 out of him. When he's productive, he's one of the best corners in the NFL. Now, look, you're losing a great player and leader in Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think from a Steelers standpoint, you signed Juan Thornhill. You're saying, well, maybe we can just Band-Aid it. So I like it for Pittsburgh. I would have loved it if they kept Minkah Fitzpatrick. For Miami, it's a little bit of like, once you announce that you're divorcing a player, you're trying to cut your losses, give them a lot of credit. You're getting back somebody with Minkah Fitzpatrick, former first-round pick. As you mentioned, Evan, with 2 years to go on non-guaranteed money, that's probably something to monitor. So if you're Miami, you just hope a lot of these young corners, Cam Smith in particular, could step up for them in this season.
Yeah, I think I like it better for Miami than Pittsburgh. I think Miami's getting rid of a bunch of salary and, a player in Ramsey that they had announced to the world they weren't going to keep or couldn't keep for whatever reason. So Pittsburgh, I also think Miami got the best player in the trade, which is a nice way to evaluate trades sometimes too. So I think if you're Pittsburgh, you managed to get older on defense, which is challenging because they already probably were one of the oldest ones. The pass catcher, they needed another wide receiver, and Jonnu Smith can sort of effectively be that, right? Like as a dynamic pass catcher that Arthur Smith knows how to use. Maybe they go out and get somebody else at wide receiver. But Minkah Fitzpatrick is a heart and soul guy on the defense. I just that to me is a very surprising. He had 2 years left on his contract. Unless he was making noise about a new contract, which I had not heard, I'm surprised that they would move on from him.
Yeah, for the Steelers, this seems like a team that is worse after this trade than they were before. And that's not something you want when you're supposed to be going all in for Aaron Rodgers in his final year. You're supposed to be doing stuff to improve your roster now, even if it means taking on money and taking on contracts, things like that. To move the best player in the trade, I don't think they're better right now. And yes, you get another weapon for Aaron Rodgers, but I just feel like the Steelers' defense takes a step back, the locker room takes a step back, even if they take a marginal step up in offense.
I'll go to the other side of that. I think when you look at trying to address an issue, you get Darius Slay at corner, you drafted Joey Porter a couple years ago, and again, Jalen Ramsey is a very physical corner. And you had mentioned earlier, Evan, about is this a big year for Mike Tomlin? Of course it is, but if he can get the most out of Jalen Ramsey, guys, like that is a very talented secondary at corner. I agree. Minkah Fitzpatrick on and off the field is a major loss, and if you're all in, certainly you would think you would try to keep him. And I think these developments are really good for TJ Watt's wallet because you're not doing all these moves not to pay TJ Watt.
We're used to giving the Steelers the benefit of the doubt. They're one of those teams. We just sort of posit them as a well-run organization, and there's plenty of evidence to support that. This offseason has been very un-Steeler-like, and they're making a lot of moves, the kind of which they don't usually make. And I'm fascinated to see what it all means because, again, Aaron Rodgers, going out and getting Aaron Rodgers, maybe that was the best of a bad situation, but it's not the kind of thing we've seen them do. And then, again, unless something had gone wrong internally with Minkah Fitzpatrick, that's a major, major piece to give up.
Ross, let me ask a follow-up quickly on that. Is there any chance that Mike Tomlin knows this is my final year, even if it's his choice? Because I don't know how anyone could fire that man. And maybe he's saying, I want you to go all in because I'm not going to be here long term. That's your problem if this doesn't work.
If that's the case, I don't know about it, right? He just signed an extension last off season. So that would be a significant departure. I think the way the Steelers operate, they want to contend all the time. They don't want to go into a rebuild, right? They don't want to go and get a high draft pick so they can get the quarterback. They have to compete every single year. And so for whatever reason, they believe these moves will help them do that. They needed help at cornerback, and they needed another pass catcher after trading DK Metcalf. But yeah, look, they're good. They're good at what they do. My evaluation on this could be wrong, but it doesn't look like a very Steelerish offseason to me, and I wonder if it sets up for disappointment.
Yeah, moving on from Minka Fitzpatrick does not signal to me desperation to win right now, which is the problem, which everything they've done so far has indicated that. And about their offseason, this has been a terrible offseason for the Steelers team, notably for the fact of how they handled the Aaron Rodgers situation. Like, that has been alarming, and this is a potential of a Steelers organization where the bottom could fall out for the first time, really in my lifetime, for this thing where Tomlin might not be there, you may not have a quarterback, and you may not be in contention. I've never seen a Steelers team that is on the precipice of some sort of disarray that they could be at the end of the season.
You know what, to me, like the biggest domino to me was the 22nd pick in the first round. They could have taken Jackson Dart, but they take Derek Harmon, who I think is going to be a great player. And I think that's when they sort of announced to the world that, hey, we're going to go rent Aaron Rodgers. Now, look, maybe they hit on Will Howard, who I think is a really intriguing 6th-round pick. But to me, maybe this was one of those where, hey, with Mike Tomlin, we can't get to where we want to go with the Mason Rudolphs of the world. It didn't work out with Russell Wilson. Maybe we just try Aaron Rodgers short-term, something we tried with the Jets with Brett Favre, and then we wound up drafting Mark Sanchez subsequently, and maybe they just feel like, I really thought Jackson Dart or Shedeur Sanders was going to be someone that they were going to look at. But when they decided not to draft a quarterback early in the draft, everything else flowed from there. Like, hey, we're going to try to win now. The only thing that's inconsistent with that is letting Minka Fitzpatrick go.
Garage, you may be wrong on the results. I don't think you're wrong on the process. This is a process that we haven't seen the Steelers take. It reminds me in some ways of the 2021 Patriots, when Belichick all of a sudden started spending a ton of money, including Jonnu Smith, by the way,
Right.
Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar. A lot of these guys did not work out, and it was different than the normal process of the Patriots. The process of the Steelers has not been this.
Your idea of are they going all in because Tomlin knows he's almost at the end, that would be the better parallel would be Philadelphia and Andy Reid's last year, where they went out and got a bunch of stars, right? Like Nami Awesome, right? Exactly. A dream. Now that we were sitting there in the offseason thinking that their roster looked better. I'm just not. If the Steelers are going all in, I just don't know how much they've improved their team this offseason. Talking to people before the draft, it was very clear to me the Steelers were not enamored with this draft class at quarterback, and that they really like the idea of next year's draft class at quarterback. So the one-year stopgap makes sense in terms of that logic, but the rest of the moves, I mean, $30 million a year for DK Metcalf when you're not sure who your quarterback's going to be. Again, not a very Steelerish move.
Here's what they're saying. They're saying that we believe that Aaron Rodgers throwing to DK Metcalf and Jonnu Smith is better than Russell Wilson throwing the ball to George Pickens.
Yeah, well, they may be right.
They may, but it's been like 80 minutes. We haven't said it yet. This is kind of a Cowboysian rule. We haven't mentioned this team yet. This feels like
Cowboys.
This feels like a Cowboy. Like we're going to get the big name. We're going to do something that indicates that we're all in, but we're going to be inconsistent. This feels like a bunch of knee-jerk reactions from an organization that is not prone to have these kind of knee-jerk reactions.
Although getting Jonnu Smith on a one-year extension at $12 million, like Roz and I were talking about, I feel like that's pretty opportunistic. And I think Jalen Ramsey, we just have to wait and see. Like, his A game is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's why you're paying Mike Tomlin top of the market, is to maximize his ability.
I would look at Aaron Rodgers' numbers historically with tight ends. Not as good as wide receivers, unless they make him into more of a wide receiver, which I know he is. I don't have faith that Jonnu Smith's going to be awesome with Aaron Rodgers.
We'll see about that.
Okay. A bet on that with Mike and I, ESPN Bet. There we go. If you're going to get ejected, you better get your money's worth. Reaction.
Chào cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn câu pha. Ôi, cậu Thành đâu? Cậu Thành về rồi. Thành về rồi. Không, những con đồ cốt thì con dấu nào? Nhất chỗ này rồi cậu chiều cậu Thành đi. chiều của em như là